Europeans are dying simply because they are too stubborn to change. The United States climate is much more extreme than the majority of Europe. I know that this is a pretty big generalization because there's a few spots in the United States that have a very cold climate, and there's a few spots in Europe where there are some countries that are very warm. But generally, America is both more hot and more humid than the whole of Europe. And yet, even in the coldest spots of Europe, their heat stroke rates are significantly higher than America's heat stroke rate. Why are they dying of a heat stroke at a much higher rate than us when we have a much more extreme climate than them? For me, it's mainly because of two big reasons. Both of them have to do with Europeans being too stubborn to actually change.
You're a child, which is why when you say to me, I will put down your statements as being down to a lack of knowledge and education. There are numerous reasons why air conditioning is not as common in Europe. Firstly, we'll start at the beginning. Europe has got the northern part, which is quite cool, and the southern part, which is really pretty hot. Now, due to climate change, our climate is becoming more unstable, which means, for example, in the UK, prior to about 15 years ago, it topping, I'll use Fahrenheit because I doubt you'd understand centigrade. It topping 100 was very unusual, extremely unusual, very rare. It did happen, but it was rare. It is happening more and more and more and more. Extreme temperatures are happening, and wide fluctuations of temperature very, very quickly are also happening, and they are more common. This means that people that are used to living in a temperate climate, go and look it up if you don't know what the word means, are finding it very difficult, unless they are young and fit, for their bodies to adapt quickly, which means that they are more likely to die if there is a problem. If they lived all the time in a warm climate, they wouldn't struggle, but they do. Now, the second thing is something else that you might not learn. I don't know if you've ever done geography or history. If you look at traditional building methods, both in the Americas and in Europe, people have always built for the climate. Long before electricity was something that we could harness, people built either to protect themselves from the heat, and that would be in places like Mexico, the southern Americas, all around there, in Spain, in Turkey, in Arabia, all of those places. If you look at traditional building, they build to protect themselves from the heat. In the northern parts of Europe, they build to protect themselves from the cold. We build to retain heat because extreme heat is not very likely here, or it wasn't. Now, because of those building methods, it is difficult, albeit impossible in many cases, to retrofit air conditioning, which means if we want it, we have to get portable air conditioners, which, do you know what, we can buy and do use. It's got nothing to do with stubbornness. Now, those air conditioners are coming down in price, but certainly until recently were very expensive. Which brings us to another point. In Europe, energy is a lot more expensive, and one of the reasons it is a lot more expensive is to discourage usage, because these extremes of temperature that we are struggling to deal with and are affecting far more than our physical comfort, things like our food supply, are caused by climate change. Climate change, which is caused by us relying on fossil fuels and putting carbon into the atmosphere. So until we can get 100% renewables, we are trying to discourage people from using fossil-based fuel. Okay? Now, before you start wandering off and accusing people of being stubborn and stupid, maybe learn a bit about cultural differences. Geography, history, great subjects. Study them.